What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 6 fragrances that I wish I could smell again or for the first time. So this is actually a video idea that my fiance had. Running low on ideas, so I'll definitely take ideas in the comments. But yeah, this is one of the ideas she did have for a fragrance video for myself to make, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and get started. First one is going to be Dolce & Gabbana The One. Just because I've had this in my collection for so many years, as in the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum. I don't remember my first time smelling this fragrance. I wonder what captivated me to want to purchase this fragrance, especially as like a teenager. You know, not saying that this is a fragrance that's really difficult to enjoy, but for a teenager, this is actually my signature scent. I'm just curious on why I picked this one and what did I smell in it. I don't remember if I smelled it at a store or if I just ordered it straight from online. But yeah, it's going to be Dolce & Gabbana The One, Eau de Parfum or Eau de Toilette. Just because I did have the Eau de Toilette first. I just don't have it right now since I gave my bottle to my dad. All right. Next up in this list is going to be a fragrance that it was when I started to build a bigger collection. Or just the beginning of the collections. This is before I knew about clones, really. This is going to be Ombre Leather. So this was maybe 3 years ago. Probably like around 3 years ago. I went to a Sephora where I was starting to get into fragrances again. I had smaller collections, maybe like 10 fragrances. But I wasn't really in the market going to like Sephora or like Ulta's and stuff and checking out to see, fragrances. So there was 2 Tom Fords on this list. It would be Tom Ford Oud Wood and Ombre Leather. But for video sakes, I just picked one Tom Ford, which is going to be Ombre Leather. Just because, in my opinion at least, I think Ombre Leather is maybe the more difficult fragrance to enjoy. I remember leaning more towards Oud Wood when I smelled both of them. And I remember I was excited. So I dropped my girl off at work, went to Sephora or whatever, and I came back with test strips still sprayed. And I think I sprayed the back of my hand with Oud Wood and Ombre Leather. And I was excited for her to smell them, just to see what she thought about them. At the time, she actually enjoyed Ombre Leather and did not enjoy Oud Wood. Now, I don't think she cares about either one of them. But yeah, it's a fruity leather smell. I really enjoy the smell of leather. I used to have leather interior in my car. For those, I used to drive a Mustang. I actually had a few Mustangs back in my time. But yeah, I love the smell of the interiors of a leather car. And this is kind of reminiscent of it, as well as I used to play baseball, having that brand new glove. For you guys that know, you get a brand new glove with the leather smell. You pretty much just want to dig your face into that glove all the time. But yeah, Ombre Leather for sure. I wish I could come back to that one. Then a few, so you know what, I'll go in order. So these are going to be fragrances. This is, again, before I knew really too much about clones. And I smelled this fragrance at some guy at the airport. I smelled it a few times at the airport. At the first time, I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't even ask the guy. I was, like, really impressed. Like, I didn't know a fragrance could smell like this. And then it was, like, the second person I asked. This was, like, maybe a few weeks, spread out. I remember the smell. And I was like, I definitely have to ask you, like, you smell great. What are you wearing? It was like Ombre Nomade by Louis Vuitton. And he pretty much told me all he wears is Louis Vuittons. Anything else he doesn't spend the money on. He's rather spend the money on Louis Vuitton and only has Louis Vuitton fragrances. Keep in mind, this is just a passenger. I worked, well, whatever. So yeah, the only time I ran into this guy. And this is what he was wearing. So, legendary, because now I totally understand why you only purchase Louis Vuitton fragrances. Ombre Nomade, I love it. Imagination is great. L'Immensité, I actually remember him recommending, I think it was L'Immensité that he was recommending. But yeah, Ombre Nomade, definitely the most captivating out of I smelled Imagination, not Imagination, I smelled L'Immensité and Ombre Nomade at the airport, which both really interesting. So this is the fragrance I wish I could fall in love, where I could smell again for the first time. And then this is when I found out about clones. So basically, looked online, saw that Ombre Nomade was a ridiculous price. At the time, had a smaller collection, maybe 15 fragrances, and I was just like, I don't think I am willing to spend that much money on a fragrance. Saw the Maison Alhambra Ombre clone at the time, and wasn't really talked about too much when I saw it. And it was on Amazon that I actually bought the bottle. So I bought the bottle for like 20, 25 bucks maybe. I saw that they had a L'Immensité version of it. So I bought that one too. And then I kind of fell in love with Maison Alhambra clones at the time. So I brought Ombre Nomade in Florida weather, Florida heat, was my signature scent. Got compliments on it, by the way. And I was overspraying that Ombre by Maison Alhambra ridiculously. I was doing maybe like 4 or 5 sprays. Compliments from coworkers, compliments from clients, compliments from the bus you had to take in Florida to get to the airport, after the employee parking lot. So it was impressive how I was pulling this fragrance off earlier on into my collection. Especially such a difficult scent that wouldn't really be recommended for the heat. And keep in mind, this was Florida summer heat. So it was like 90s plus. I was wearing that. It is what it is. Compliments. Next, so just to finish off with the Ombre Nomade. Ombre Nomade was always like a staple for me. Like pretty much if I get Ombre Nomade from Louis Vuitton, I'm pretty much going to start slowing down on purchasing fragrances. Has it actually happened? I would say so. I think ever since I bought Ombre Nomade, it's kind of, there was always a chase of fragrances I wanted to purchase that smelled like Ombre Nomade, or that would give me that appeal that that Ombre Nomade gave me. And I actually never got it until I got Ombre Nomade. Now it's kind of, it kind of satisfied that for me. So I'm more patient to find fragrances. I'm not really rushing to buy anything. I could really honestly care less about new releases. Besides that Argos release, Neptune's Trident looks pretty good. We'll see, because I have to make some space in my collection to purchase that fragrance, just because I really don't have space to keep it in the drawer I keep it in. Anyways, let's go ahead and go into the next fragrance. So the next fragrance is going to be the fragrance that I actually had my last day in Florida. This was before I was moving to Buffalo. So this fragrance, I picked it up. So UPS was supposed to deliver it. They delayed the shipping, or delayed it was the day before I was supposed to take the train to from Florida to Washington, D.C., and then I was going to drive back up, or drive all the way up to Buffalo. So the day before the fragrance is supposed to get delivered with another clone, gets delayed for the next day. The next day I'm leaving early for the train. So I put pickup. Hopefully they had it ready, and I just picked it up at a UPS warehouse as soon as they opened, and I went and got on the train. There was 2 clones in there. There was Angel Share's clone, Amir Fire Desire, and then there was also Intoxicated by Kilian's clone. Out of the 2, the one that impressed me the most was the Intoxicated by Kilian. And this is when I found out about clones. I was just pretty new into the Facebook group, so that was actually a trade that I made. And yeah, Intoxicated by Kilian, the clone, which was Your Drug by Amir, and it came in the same bottle as Fire Your Desire. captivated me. That's the fragrance I wanted to trade right up, actually. And then I was addicted to Your Drug by Amir, which was Intoxicated by Kilian. And I was like, definitely have to get the original. Just because if I love it that much, then I have to definitely try to get the original. To which, in a few months after, I would say a few months after, I ended up getting Intoxicated by Kilian, which is the Amir's Your Drug clone is a good clone. It's just kind of harsh when it dries down. Intoxicated by Kilian is definitely a smoother fragrance, probably because of the higher quality materials. But this is actually a fragrance I don't wear that much. If you guys can see the dent, maybe on this bottle it's like a 98%, just because I cherish it so much. I've actually worn Ombre Nomade more than I've worn this fragrance, actually, probably. I didn't get some more wearings out of this just because I need to get through it. It's a fragrance I really do enjoy, and yeah, it just brings back a lot of memories of leaving Florida and coming here. After that, this is going to be the first fragrance I actually got while I was in Buffalo. So this fragrance, I ordered it while I was in Florida, I believe. Or if not, I was on the train ride, and I ordered it to my first apartment here in Buffalo. Another clone. It's going to be a Tuxedo clone. It's Kismet for Men, which I actually think is a pretty good clone. Which actually captivated me when I smelled it. My fiance loved it when she first smelled it. She was like, that's probably the best fragrance you have. It was going to be Kismet for Men, but it's the Tuxedo clone. So this is one I definitely wish I could go back and smell for the first time. A lot of bangers pretty much for the first few fragrances that I've had clones of. But yeah, I mean, that was... I don't know if it was around the Tuxedo hype. Probably if they made a clone for it. I remember getting Kismet for Men just because it was like, if I'm not mistaken, like $16. And then I did the research afterwards. That was one of the times that I was just blind buying. If a fragrance seemed pretty interesting to me, I would just blind buy it. And it was like $17. So I was like, whatever. I think it was like one of those fragrances that I just threw into my fragrance buy order. But it was like one of those weird ones that came separate, and that one's actually the one that came first. But yeah, Tuxedo. I wish I could smell it again for the first time. It's one of those. I mean, I feel like this would also have a bit of fragrance like Ombre Nomad that I didn't really think I was ever going to buy a bottle of it. Then I was just fortunate to find a pretty good price on this bottle and went ahead and pulled the trigger. Definitely one I wish I could smell again for the first time. And finally, this is going to be the fragrance that turned me off of clones. So this kind of made me stop buying clones. I decided to spend my money in more quality fragrances, just because even for a designer fragrance, this really impressed me. And this kind of changed my aspect on cologne fragrances, just with how much this blew me away. This is going to be Dior Homme Cologne. As crazy as it sounds, this is probably the last fragrance you're probably expecting. So I was living by myself here in Buffalo for a while my fiance moved up here. She was still in Florida. Some of the things that we would randomly do is either go smell colognes or just kind of go to the mall and stuff. So one of those days we actually went to a Sephora and I smelled Dior Homme Cologne for the first time here in Buffalo. Dior Homme fragrances aren't really in all your Sephoras and Ultas and stuff. They're kind of like in really specific ones. You have to go to like malls to actually find the Dior Homme fragrances. So yeah, I was in Niagara Falls when I went and smelled this fragrance, and this fragrance blew me away. With how bright, how fresh, and I just remembered, like, I have to have this fragrance, like, I have to buy it. And I remember thinking, like, this might be one of the best fragrances in my collection. when I do buy it. And at the time, well, yeah, one of the best is, I still had Viking by Creed. I still had Aventus. I still have my partial Aventus. But I never liked, like fresh fragrances. I kind of like the sweeter stuff. And this is what definitely changed my whole perception on like blue fragrances and fresh fragrances. Just because I actually didn't really want to try any blue fragrances or fresh fragrances, just because I thought they all smelled the same and I could care less about them until I smelled this one. Then this one really impressed me, and I'm like, I definitely have to explore more. The clones aren't really helping, so I really enjoyed the higher quality materials that this had. This lasts way longer than most of my not most of my fragrances at the time, but like the quality lasted longer inside the fragrance while I was making it. But that's going to be the end. These are the 6 fragrances I wish I could smell again. I decided to do 6 instead of 5 just because I felt like I had to put Dior and Cologne in this list. I definitely deserved it. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Please let me know what your fragrances that you wish you could smell again for the first time are. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Have a good one, guys.